of the Genuine series. It's the 3rd edition. If you haven't watched any of these conversations, please head on over to our Facebook page and catch the previous conversations. We talk all things counterfeits, some standard products, fake goods, and why this is important, why it's important for you to pay attention to these, because they are harmful to your health and also to our environment, to your businesses, and to a lot of other things. Today on the show with me is Fred Muwema, and he is with the Anti-Counterfeit Network Africa. Fred, earlier on we were having an interesting discussion about human beings and if we live genuine and authentic lives. We are in the era of social media, we are in the era of and I think that as we society and what we think society wants us to be. So I guess my question to you is, are you genuine or fake?
I think that's a question that every day you have a look in the mirror as you're leaving the house. Maybe you like the look or it's worse than yesterday. Also, you confront the question whether I'm putting my best out, whether I am what society expects me to be, whether I'm genuine, whether I'm not. So it's something we confront on a daily basis, but I guess nobody sets out to be fake.
No.
I think everybody thinks they are the best, and it's a good attitude to have, but the reality is that many people in this world are not actually living genuine, authentic lives. They would like to be mirror images of some star. I know
some
the ladies would like to be like some celebrity, or with the guys, they would like to be like maybe Rambo, a soccer star. But is that the reality of the life that they actually are living in presently? I think not. So it is something very relevant in the discussions here, which in the Dankani that we've talked about stands for aspirations. Human beings are always aspiring to be better and better, and to be many times to be what they are not. And that in itself creates the kind of challenges that later come down into the goods and services that we get, we consume. That imitation also comes down into what we are buying.
For sure. For sure. I think that it's very important to talk about us as human beings first, even before we talk about the goods. And I like how you've connected it, that we are aspirational as human beings. We want to be rich. We want to be famous. We want to be like Fred Muwema, the very successful lawyer. And sometimes that trickles down into how we spend, the things that we buy, and the things that we consume in our homes. Last week, we talked about water and how we are using water and how counterfeits happen in the water sector. And today we thought that it would be important for us to hear from the people who are guardians of the water sector in Uganda. We have a short video from the Senior Manager, Public Relations from National Water and Sewerage Corporation, and he's educating us on all things water, how the water is harvested, how it's preserved, and how it is distributed into your homes. We're going to be watching that clip in a short while, and of course hearing some of your comments. Is there anything that stood out from from our discussion last week?
No, first of all, for this week, what we are doing, I think it is probably the first time that you have a public utility company, in this case National Water, that is doing an advert or a public announcement, which is not either talking about water theft, pay your bills, if you don't, we shall disconnect you. And this is different. This is a conversation, I think the first of its kind, where the utility provider is talking to you and just asking you, be more responsible in your use. What contaminates the water? I don't know the last time that we had this kind of discussion. How do you keep the water safe? This is new ground. So I would like to, on my part, to congratulate the National Water for accepting to participate in this information dissemination to the public, which is not the usual, pay your bill or we shall disconnect you, but generally giving information through soft power, if you like, to say we are in this together. We all need ourselves or everyone in the provision, distribution, and use of the water equitably and optimally. So
absolutely,
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at Mr. Samuel Apedel talking to us about water and how they harvest it, how it is distributed into your homes. If you didn't know where the water passes, before you open the tap, you might want to take a look at this.
My name is Samuel Apedel. I'm the Senior Manager Public Relations for National Water and Sewerage Corporation. As you are aware, National Water is 100% owned by the government of Uganda, and our assignment is very simple: to provide water and sewerage services to the people of Uganda in the urban areas and areas that have been gazetted to us to serve the people by the government of Uganda. Water quality is at the heart of what we do. Remember, people say water is life. It's a cliche, it seems tired, but if you don't have water, then you're going to have a lot of problems. And people use the water for cooking, they use it to drink, they use it to wash their utensils. So we ensure that the quality of the water that people receive in their homes fits the World Health Organization standards and also the standards of Uganda National Bureau of Standards. As a way of quality assurance, in Kampala alone, we have over 500 sampling points where we test the quality of the water. We test the water in the lake, we test it in the treatment plant, we test it in the pipes. These 500 sampling points are in the pipe network spread across Kampala. However, we also test the water in people's homes to ensure that the water that reaches our customers is fit for human consumption, that it tastes okay, it has no color, and it smells good. Most of the water that we supply in Kampala, the 240 million that we supply to people on a daily basis, is got from Lake Victoria. Nobody manufactures water. We all get water from the environment where it exists. So one of the challenges that we have as a corporation is the poor quality of raw water, the pollution that is happening at the source where we are getting the water. A number of people have built around the lake shores. Now, nature is very, very good at treating and healing itself. When the environment is okay, you will find this vegetation which is around the lake. So when it rains and the water goes there, it doesn't go like storm water and rushes into the lake directly. It percolates and moves around the swamps, and by the time it reaches the water, the solids have sunk and some of these things have been able to. This is natural filtration. But right now the problem is that all of this natural vegetation which was protecting the water bodies has been denuded. People have removed it, so you get things getting into there. Then there is industrial activity, for example. Some of the factories may be engaging in practices that are not necessarily good for the environment. The relevant authority can speak about it, but I'm happy to note that a number of factories now have their own waste management systems. Sometimes people ask questions like, for example, can I drink the water straight from the tap? I can tell you that by the time the water leaves the treatment plant, it's fit for human consumption. It meets the standards of World Health Organization. It also meets the standards of Uganda National Bureau of Standards. However, when the water reaches in your home, every home has got its own plumbing. You have your own plumbing, and then you have storage tanks. Some people never wash these tanks. From the time they built the house, the tank has never been washed. Some of the tanks do not have covers, so dust can get into the tank. Also, sometimes we have seen pictures of birds actually drinking water from those tanks there. Then, for example, disposal of waste at home. If you have an old battery, how do you dispose of the battery? A car battery. If you have dry cells, how do you dispose them of? If you have old laptops and things like that, how do you dispose them of? So the management of rubbish must be done very, very cleverly. If you have pit latrines at home and then you have a well nearby, there are standards that were told that the pit latrine should be at least 30 meters away from that place. So that can actually happen. Then also, of course, you have other places which can be sources of pollution. For example, washing bays. The cars use petrol and things like that. There is oil. So how do you manage that wastewater? How does it go off? And then also the industries. The industries must have systems for containment of the rubbish and some of the harmful effluent that they might emit. As National Water, for us, of course, because we just treat water and then we manage sewerage, we are able to treat the waste from your kitchen, we're able to treat the waste from your toilet, from the toilet, using the conventional mechanisms. For example, right now we have just finished the construction of a new sewage treatment plant in Bugorobi. This sewage treatment plant in Bugorobi will also be able to generate electricity by use of biogas. But also there is a very important element of this new sewage treatment plant. The water that goes through Nachivubo channel, we will divert that water to the sewage treatment plant and treat it before it goes into the lake. Because the Nachivubo channel is heavily polluted because of activities of human beings. There are people who release the sewage into the drain. There is also industrial waste. And that was affecting the water intake point at Machishon Bay. So when we did the construction of this plant, we said, okay, while it can receive piped sewerage, but during the dry season when you call the dry flow, when there's not much water, the pollutants in the water are more. So we divert this to the sewage treatment plant in Bugorobi and treat it so that it goes into the lake. By doing this, we are protecting the lake, but also we are helping ourselves so that we don't meet a lot of costs when the water finally reaches the lake and it's extremely dirty. We are very, very serious about meeting the standards because the water which is in the pipe, it's pressurized. If the pipe is not strong enough, then it will burst. If the pipe bursts, then there can be a problem of cross-contamination from the environment. So you release water, the water is clean, but because if the fittings and the joints are not strong enough, so it's quite important that the people who are manufacturing these things adhere to the standards. Sometimes people try and counterfeit because they want to make cut corners, they want to make abnormal profits. But if you become somebody who supplies materials that are substandard, the users of the materials will know what is happening, and then they will not come and buy from you. People will always go and look for quality things. The point of encouragement is that we must take care of the environment, take care of our water resources, because the water resources can get finished. They can get finished, and also if they are overly polluted, then the cost of treating them becomes very high, and then we are not able to supply water to people at an affordable price. So let's take care of the environment will take care of us.
All right, there you have it. Senior Manager Public Relations at the National Water and Sewerage Corporation talking to us and educating us on the subject of water. And I think, Fred, one of the things that stood out for me in that video, Mr. Apedel talks about how the water sources, so they harvest water from the natural resources, which is our lakes. And he was talking about how there's been an influx of people that were built around natural resources and they're not taking care of them. So they are polluting them. I think you saw, where they were washing cars and
yes.
That water is sort of going into something that you touched on last week, water pollution and us not being able to take care of our water sources. What do we do about that?
There's something that the manager there talked about, which was quite catchy. Did you hear him say that nobody manufactures water? Meaning that water is not like some products you go and create and then tomorrow you create another one.
Yeah.
We have a permanent source or a permanent volume of water on this earth. So whenever you use it, you're taking from a fixed volume of water. You know that more than 70% of the earth is made up of water, but only 2.5% of that is liquid water. Now, of the liquid water, most of it is trapped into the glaciers and ice. It's up in the atmosphere. Some is trapped into the ground. Only 0.5% of that is accessible fresh water. So when he's talking about proper use and handling of water, I think what the utility provider should also be helping us here with is it's not enough to ask people to how to get safe water into their homes, but people should also understand that this is a resource that is not renewable. We have had the same amount of water on this earth for the last maybe a billion years or something. It's fixed, and yet the population is increasing. The pressure on the water is increasing. So can we, in this program and relationship with the providers of piped water in this case, can we not stop at just educating people about how you should not have contamination in water through the plumbing and pipes that you use? But can we also make people conscious and aware that the water reservoir is fixed and it's diminishing? Of course, there is recycling of water. A lot of the sewage and the waste has got to be recycled and then brought back into human use. So for me, that point of nobody manufactures water is very, very important for us to appreciate that not only should we not be contaminating this very scarce resource, but we should also know that we owe our survival to the existence of this water. And if we are going to wait for the national water, the government or your LC to tell you that this is so important to you and please don't contaminate it, don't waste it, then I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves. So I would like to commend the national water there for coming out strongly. Of course, you see they have an ambitious plan to ensure that the outreach is deeper. Our concern here is let's not have more outreach of contaminated water. Let's have more outreach of safe water. But I think they need to come out also boldly, join programs like this, and assist people in the proper handling
of water,
so that we don't waste, because there's a lot of wastage.
Yeah, just picking up from that, when we're preparing for this particular discussion, you pointed out that water is important to the ecosystem. So not just to us as human beings, but to our environment. And we keep saying constantly that water is life.
Yes.
But I feel like as human beings, we have failed water, so to speak. We have failed to allow water to be life towards us. And you talk about pollution, but there's, things like wastage, the way we handle the water. What are your comments? And I guess in what ways have we failed, water, so to speak?
I think if you're going to talk about conservation and proper use of water and access to safe water, we have got to appreciate it's a paradox of sorts. For example, right now in the world, we have about 2 billion people in the middle class, out of about 6-7. In the next 10 years, we're going to have about 5 billion middle class. So people are going to get more wealthier, more affluent. They like to live in flats and in town. What does that come up with? The more middle class people you have, the more food you need.
True.
So now let's look at what kind of food, as people develop and increase their standard of living, a lot of them are going to eat non-vegetable foods. Okay, you're going to have your meats.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a favorite for you. You're going to have. Now, if you look at what it costs to produce a kilo of meat, about 50,000 liters of water is required to produce a kilo of meat. Now, remember I told you that the water is fixed.
Already,
the volume is fixed. But we are aspiring for eating things like meat. Compare what 1 kilo of maize flour, for example, it doesn't consume even 10% of that. So I think the awareness we need should not stop at just saying that please make sure you have a purifier at home to make sure you have access to safe water. We need to know that within our environment and human sustenance and existence, we are doing things that are taking water. Agriculture is taking a lot of water. If you're going to keep cattle, all these things require water. And yet at the same time, whereas we are pushing the agenda here for, can we make sure that we have safe water in our houses? What are we telling people about wastage? For me, I feel that's a big thing. How many of us will brush, and as they're brushing, the tap is running. The water is running. How many taps out there today, if you checked in your house, how many taps have water dropping?
Dripping,
Or
yes.
dripping
Yeah.
And leaking? Can National Water tell us how much water is lost every year
Through West.
through the pipe bursts and breaking of the system? Many times you're driving and you will see there is a pipe which has burst and the water has made some kind of
flowing for days, yes.
It's sprinkling upwards, and it happens for the whole day.
Yeah.
How much water is lost because of that? So whereas we are promoting behavior towards consumption of safe water, I think we also need to promote behavior change in the proper use and management of the water resource. And that is relevant to counterfeit because counterfeits do not only relate to the physical product, they also relate to human behavior. So I will say here that is counterfeit behavior if you're the type who has access to safe water, but you leave the tap running.
Absolutely.
Or you are the type who before taking a bath, the water has got to run for 5 minutes as you're thinking about whether to dive into the bath or not. That's wastage.
Yeah.
And so I think what we need to be doing here is get everybody on board. Can we have regulators and public authorities coming in? Yes, increase the pipe water, but also tell us the best practices and usages.
Yes.
And then can we also empower and equip users of this water to know that as we increase in population, as we become wealthier, we are using much more water.
Yeah.
And therefore, there is going to be stress and pressure on this water that we need to exist.
Yeah.
So it's a mix.
A mix
of things.
Yeah. And I think that is how we use the water in our homes. I think there's also something to be said about the way we handle the water, making sure that it's safe for us to consume and for us to drink. There are all manner of water purification ideas that are coming through, and we are going to play a video from one of our partners in the League of the Genuine, who is, into water purification. But first, I think on a layman's level, on a domestic level, different people do different things for water purification at home. Is that something that you do in your house?
Well, now for many people who live in towns, in the city, I think the notion is, or the belief is that the water is generally already purified. But I know many years ago, 30, 40 years ago, I used to see, and maybe it's done up to now, if they are going to put water in the pot or something, they get a piece of cloth, cover it on top, so they pour the water
sort of filter it. Yes.
The concept of purification, sieving, and cleaning out, getting out the sediments and the dregs, I think it has not just come now. That has always been there from a long time ago. But right now, you have modern systems that can be used at the point of either entry or use of water, maybe the main tap in the sink, that help to purify and take out a lot of the contaminants that, as we said before, are making the water unsafe and basically making us sick.
Yeah. Let's hear from an expert, somebody who is actually into the business of water purification systems. Let's take a look at this and then we'll be right back to make a few comments. Please remember, if you have a question or comment, leave it in the comment section, and Fred is happy to answer your question in the course of this show.
My name is Adrina Tumanya. I am the sales manager at Waterquip Uganda Limited. I am very proud to be part of this event, this show. SEN is doing a great job putting together players like us to discuss issues that matter, issues that affect our health, affect our businesses. And I really feel that we need to engage a lot more, because the fight against counterfeit really requires a joint effort. So I'm very proud to be here. As you know, in July 2010, the United Nations General Assembly recognized access to safe water as fundamental in achieving all the other human rights. So access to safe water is actually a human right. And as you might also know, 90% of the diseases that affect us, affect our children and our societies, is all due to contaminated water or dirty water. Utility water is safe as it leaves the national water plant. The challenge is what happens before the water comes to our houses, to our homes, to our schools, and to our businesses. A lot happens along the way. We have broken pipes, and because of that, you have a lot of dirt or sediment coming in, and that ends up in our water storage tanks in our homes and in our businesses, and as such, we end up consuming dirty water. There are different ways of treating water or getting safe drinking water. For example, you can boil water. I think a lot of people still do this. The challenge with boiling is that it consumes a lot of time, and it's very costly to boil water with charcoal, for instance, or even with electricity. It's quite expensive to boil. But the other challenge with boiling is that you're never going to have enough. Imagine if you boil water, you have to let it cool, and then you can only boil so little. So boiling implies that you will not have enough water to drink throughout the day. Another way to get safe drinking water is chlorination, and too much chlorine is not good for our health. So the challenge is, are you able to use just what is enough for you? UV is a safer way to get drinking water. It does not change anything about the water. On the contrary, it takes out all the dirt and sediment from water, and after that, it also ensures that your water is bacteria free, and therefore when you drink your water off your tap, it is safe. Our UV water treatment systems are chemical free. They do not add any chemicals to your water. What basically happens is that they filter out all the dirt, all the sediment, and they also remove bad smell and taste and odor from your water. And after that, all the bacteria is inactivated, and that gives you 99.99% safe drinking water. I would like to show you how the purifier works. And this is what it basically looks like. It has two filters. One is a sediment filter, and this removes sediment and dirt. The second is an activated carbon filter, which improves taste and odor. And then the third is basically the UV chamber, and in there we have the ultraviolet bulb, and that's what inactivates harmful bacteria. So when we install a water purifier at your house or school or clinic or restaurant, it will have filters that look like this. And as you can see, these are new filters. They haven't been used. After a few days, a few months, your filters will look like this. This is what they look like. Now this is dirt, but I cannot tell you what kind of dirt this is. What I can say is that I'm very glad that together with SEN, we are conducting a study to understand water quality in Kampala. And part of this study will be to really dig deep into what kind of dirt is in our water and what health risks it poses. I would like to encourage people out there to be mindful of what they consume, the quality of water that they consume. Be mindful of what product you pick on the market, because there is a lot of counterfeit, and we need to join efforts in getting rid of counterfeit products on the market. In the meantime, we are very proud to say we have a solution for you. We have products that will be able to take dirt and bacteria out of your water to ensure that you, your family, and your loved ones enjoy safe drinking water off your tap.
Well, we apologize. Few technical issues with the sound, but these videos are going to be played at the end and the conversation can continue. So please do share your comments once you have watched the video. We'll play the one by the Senior Manager, Public Relations, as well at the end, in case you missed it, just to hear what they are both saying. So National Water speaking to us about water, but also Adrian Atumanya talking to us about a water purification system as a way of ensuring that water is safe for use in your homes, amongst many other methods, which we were sort of elaborating on. And I think Adrian as well intimated to chlorine, using chlorine, but you need to know how much chlorine to put in your water to make sure it's safe. She talked about boiling our water. So we use different methods depending on, I guess, your income level and what you have at your disposal. So let's maybe carry on with, water purification. And I like what you said about, if you're wasting water, then you are, equivalent to somebody who is counterfeiting water. How best, I guess, can we manage or handle water in our homes?
Okay, first of all, we need to commend entities like WaterQuip, which have come into the marketplace. I mean, you can make money by going to China, you bring shoes, you bring sandals, but these guys choose to invest in an area which touches everybody's life, okay? They choose to go in an area which has a regulator.
Yeah.
The national water is there. It's the responsibility of government to provide piped and safe water, but they come to make a contribution and say, look, we know that there are systemic issues, challenges, like you had the manager of national water saying, that by the time the water leaves their plant, is treated, it is safe. But what happens before it comes to your household is the kind of gap that that Adrian, I watched that video before, that she's trying to come in and say, look, we can participate in providing a better consumer experience to consumption of water, which the national water is providing. So for me, I feel that we need more information, more awareness. How does this purifier work? I saw she was holding some two-legged kind of small equipment that is fixed right below your sink. One does pick the impurities, the sediments. Then there is one which
For the color,
looks
the
out for
smell.
the odor, the smell. I didn't know Rachel water also has smell.
It does. And actually, Mr. Pedel talked about it as well. Yeah.
The smell, the color, and then the one with the UV light that, if you like, kills the harmful bacteria.
Yes.
And this is really a very, very useful intervention that they are making in a place where half our population has no access to piped water, forget even safe water, piped water, that we can have such technologies coming right to our doorsteps is something very, very commendable. But I think there is a class of people, of course, who can look up to this equipment and make sure they access safe water. But what happens to other people who are not able to maybe afford this kind of equipment? people who are getting water from springs,
Yes.
from rivers.
Yes.
There's what they call protected wells, all those things. How will the viewer, how will somebody who is engaging with us be able to tell that this water is safe?
Yeah.
And we've hinted on some of the ways you can tell. I'm sure each one of you has smelled water. It smells in a certain way. So, and water looks like water.
Way, yes.
I don't know what that color is.
It's colorless.
The color of water is the color of water. Now, if one of the ways of finding out whether the water you're taking is contaminated is through the color.
Yes.
It's through the smell. But the other obvious way is if you obviously see that it's not clear, maybe it has some particles or some things floating on top of it and so on. This is information that I feel the National Water Keep and all these other people who are should for water equip is like after sales. Yes, so what happens after I have installed the purifier and I have safe water? What happens? There is contamination even after that. How do I deal with it? And like we've said, how do I stop wastage? Because it's not enough for me to succeed to get safe water in my home only to waste it.
Yes.
And then, so I think that this is a good starting point. It's a good starting point that we are highlighting the problem of contamination of water, and we are showing the causes, and we've showed the players who are helping us to bring the water into our homes, to purify it, like Water could be saying. But then the message also that the last video is showing us is that it is the responsibility not only of National Water or Water Keep to ensure that we have safe water. It's the responsibility of all of us.
Yeah.
We all have a duty to ensure that we stop contamination.
Yeah. Yes.
Which you use at home. Do you just throw it into some? You may think you've thrown it in the septic tank, but what the manager didn't tell you, they also handle sewerage.
Yes.
And when they treat it, what happens to the water extracted out of that? So if it was already contaminated, we have issues there. So I think the way we are handling water in relation to the other domestic things at home, for example, the electronics at home. Rachel, where did your old phone go, or your old computer? Do you know how it was disposed?
No, I don't.
So we're having a lot of electronic waste.
Yeah.
Okay, that we buy. I don't know how many million phones we have in the country. We buy, and when they die, where are they buried? Most likely they are buried in the earth. They are buried in a water source. They find their way back into our drinking water.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to do more, not to stop only at dealing with the problem, the symptom, but we need to have more preventive methods of ensuring that eventually we have access to safe water.
Okay. Fred, we are coming to the close of today's show, and we've talked extensively about water, how we handle it, how we use it, where it's contaminated, where it's polluted. And like I like to say, one of the mandates of this show is to call us to action. I guess what would be your call to action for different players, those who are into water purification, those who are into being a custodian of the water that we use, but also us as individuals in this fight against.
Okay, first of all, on this program, we had two persons joining us from the regulator, the National Water, and from a water purifier equipment, purifier supplier. Those videos could not play live as we're here, but you'll have an opportunity to view them. So I'd urge everybody to take time and view them because there are good messages there. But what is the message in respect of water? Like I said, good people, water is shrinking. The size of the water that is available for use, fresh water, is shrinking, whereas the uses for water are increasing. The population that needs water is increasing. The more affluent you have, you now live in a house with 3-4 taps. Some people grew up in a village where there was one tap or one borehole. Now you are all alone to yourself in the city, and you have 5 taps, and water drips every single day in some of those taps. And you, before you used to eat a mango without using a lot of water. Now you make mango juice. You first wash the mango, that's water going down. Then you put some little water in the blender, you mix. After you have to wash the blender, that's water. Then you drink the juice. After drinking, you wash again. So our lifestyle and activities are making the demand and use for water bigger. So we need more water, but we need more safe water. So I think let's have more responsibility towards, let's not contaminate the water because it's a scarce resource, but also when we have the pure water, the clean water, can we have efficient use for it? Please don't leave the tap running. Don't open the shower unless you are ready to shower. That still represents behavior which is not genuine. That represents counterfeit behavior, and we are here to promote the best of us as humans in our use, disposal, and management of the water resource that God gave us.
Thank you so much, Fred, for your insights as usual. So much to learn, so much to challenge ourselves by. And if you have learned a thing or two, please leave a comment for us. If you have a question, would love to hear what you have to say on this subject of water or counterfeits in general. Remember, the videos are going to be playing. We spoke to the Public Relations Senior Manager at National Water and Sewerage Corporation, Mr. Samuel Apedel, and we also spoke to Miss Adrien Atumanya, Sales Manager at Equip Water. And Water Equip, rather, I apologize. Water Equip. So they have lots of insights as well to share on water purification systems. So do watch those and get as much insight as you can. Thank you for joining us. Remember, we are live every Friday between 3 and 4 p.m. We're talking counterfeits, a subject that is very, very important and something that you need to pay close attention to. Until next Friday, enjoy your weekend.